out there. The other thing that really stood out to me though, Cenk, is that it was a post on TikTok. It's an AI generated video. Then someone posted it on X, and all of these like self-described progressives and liberals are sharing it and like looking down their noses at it. Like it's funny. Like, why is that funny?
In this video, Ana Kasparian of the Young Turks, along with Cenk Uygur, once again rip on the left. Ana Kasparian plays a video of Chinese propaganda that depicts Americans as fat and lazy, and many on the left wing are sharing it and promoting it. God, they really hate this country, don't they? With that, let's watch Ana Kasparian torch the left for its anti-American sentiment.
Okay, so look, this is apparently meant to make fun of Americans and Trump's like tariff policies, which is already insane since they're like kind of showing the terrible conditions that Chinese people and also people in other countries that our corporations exploit for cheap labor are working under. That's happening now in some countries that we do trade with. So let me just put that out there. The other thing that really stood out to me though, Cenk, is that it was a post on TikTok. It's an AI generated video. Then someone posted it on X, and all of these like self-described progressives and liberals are sharing it and like looking down their noses at it. Like it's funny. Like, why is that funny?
Honestly, I don't get the whole thing. That's why we did a poll in the live chat. What are your thoughts on this video? Love it, hate it, confused by it, which I think I'm gonna vote on, or neutral, right? And so I guess what they're saying is if Trump's tariff policy were to work anyway, what we would do these menial jobs, where Americans aren't going to do these menial jobs. So who cares? But why? That's not a great own of Trump. That's kind. Remember, progressives, Bernie Sanders, et cetera, were in favor of tariffs, not crazy tariffs like Trump, not these mega nuclear tariffs, but tariffs to protect some parts of the manufacturing industry.
Oh, wait. So did you just say that some progressives and Bernie Sanders are for tariffs? So everything that the left and the media and you guys are complaining about with Trump is something that your party would be for? But Cenk made sure to differentiate. They're not for like nuclear tariffs like Trump is doing. You see, they can't just acknowledge that Trump's strategy with these tariffs is winning. So they have to still differentiate, even when they're not necessarily criticizing the right wing, because this is really about criticizing the left and progressives here. But they still have to make sure they signal to their audience and to everyone else that Donald Trump's the enemy. Got it. I kind of don't get this either, because I know our country has an obesity problem. So I guess that's why everyone's big and fat in the video. But the biggest offenders, no pun intended, of overeating and obesity, I think is a relatively small group of people. And whether it is or isn't, this other idea that, you know, Americans not only fat, but they're lazy. I am like the least traveled person in the world. So my view on what the world thinks of us is probably the least credible, but I don't get the impression that Americans are looked at as lazy. I remember that trope kind of going around maybe in the 90s, but I don't think Americans are perceived as lazy. As a matter of fact, just practically speaking and objectively speaking, I think the average American works pretty long hours, and I think most average Americans that are working, I'm sure one could argue that their problem isn't laziness, it's work-life balance. I mean, maybe it's just the people that I know, but Americans get really wrapped up in their work, which is a good thing, but just like anything, it can be unhealthy to take anything too far. And being a workaholic, when I was younger, I used to think it was a good thing. I used to think it was showing everyone what a hard worker you are, but it's not something you really should aspire to, because those are the people that miss out on valuable moments in their lives because work is everything and neglect other things in their lives. Anyway, sorry, I went off a tangent. I guess you guys can let me know in the comments. Are Americans overall fat and lazy as compared to the rest of the world? And then a separate question, does the rest of the world view the American workforce as fat and lazy? I'm really interested in what you guys have to say because like I said, I just don't have much perspective of how the rest of the world views Americans. I also really don't care. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Why are we making fun of American manufacturing by making it seem like we'd be Chinese workers
that we would be working in sweatshops? Yeah, first of all, so you're okay with the sweatshops, like us exploiting the sweatshops in other countries? We're okay with that as long as it's not Americans? First of all, no one should be working in sweatshops, period. And by the way, we actually used to have unionized textile and garment workers here in the United States. And guess what? They took a lot of pride in the work they did because this is actually skilled labor. If you're under the assumption that someone who's a seamstress, someone who sews clothing for a living is not a skilled worker, you are mistaken. Yes, I understand that they now have sewing machines that are literally automatic. They're computerized and automatic, but nonetheless, there is actually a lot of skill that goes into it. And I want to remind you all, again, well-paying unionized jobs back in the day in America. So like, are they under the assumption that with labor laws that we have here, if those jobs came back to the United States, Americans will be working in sweatshops?
How is that an own of Trump? Like, I don't, so if you said his tariffs are maniacal, you're correct. Like, hey, that's gonna lead to higher prices, you're correct.
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
You're saying we shouldn't protect jobs here in America. You're not correct. B, that is definitely not a progressive position. And it feels a tiny bit like when Republicans make fun of AOC for earlier being a bartender. Like, oh yeah, why don't you go back to being a bartender? Yeah, so what? I'm proud that she was a bartender.
Same.
And so I just don't get it, and I don't think it's funny, and I'm not sure what the big own is.
I just want, please, for once, I just want progressives online and Democrats in general to not take the bait, right? So if Trump does something like make an argument, a hollow argument, because I don't believe him for a second, that he wants to implement tariffs to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States, that doesn't mean you need to automatically be against manufacturing jobs or manufacturing workers.
Yeah,
think about that. Think about the optics of that. Sorry.
And that's not even progressive so much as general Democrats. Like, we have to be opposed to, MSNBC told me I have to be opposed to everything Trump does. No, you could be opposed to those maniacal tariffs without being opposed to manufacturing jobs. So please, guys, let's use our judgment here and let's be principled and remember what our principles actually are. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel.
First, let me address, what the hell is Ana talking about? She says that she doesn't believe for a second that Donald Trump wants to bring manufacturing jobs back here. Ana, you don't think that would significantly decrease the amount that we depend on China for critical goods? Ana, you don't think that would bring the middle class back to the United States, which is almost non-existent, if not completely erased from this country? I thought he's just out for billionaires, though. That's another thing you guys always say. He's all about the donor class. I mean, actually, you guys say it about everybody. All of his moves with regard to tariffs and trade have pissed off the billionaires in this country. So where do you take your narrative now? Because it's created a lot of market volatility, and that makes billionaires unhappy. If he just wanted to please billionaires, why in the world would he make these moves that he knows will shake up the markets and that he knows will piss off billionaires plus more than half the country? Why would he do all this stuff if he doesn't think it's the best interest of the country? You guys always do it, but this time you're really having to stretch to convince me why you don't believe that Donald Trump is doing what he's doing because he thinks it's in the best interest of the country. I understand you're never going to like him and go ahead and criticize the way he's going about things, but this is the most transparent in my lifetime. When Donald Trump says, I'm doing this to accomplish this, he has a good track record of meaning what he says. So I don't know. I was about to say, I don't know how they can continue to have this just completely incorrect view of Donald Trump, but duh. I mean, they've been preaching how much they hate him for over 10 years. And arguably, even the people that hate watch them, their TDS and their meltdowns over Trump, I have to believe are 50% or more of their views. I mean, people just watch them to laugh at them a lot of times. So it's doubtful that they'll ever completely drop the "we hate Donald Trump" shtick. Now, what I agree with Anna and Shank about is I could sit here and try to dissect this propaganda video that the Chinese put out, but they're right. I don't really get it. And I'm glad they're saying that. When they showed it, other than what I talked about before, this idea that Americans are fat and lazy, I honestly didn't get what the burn is or what the joke on Americans is. And actually, be great if you guys would let me know in the comments. I really don't know, because I actually thought they made a good point. Like, they're kind of exposing something we all know, but they're just putting on full display how awful the conditions are working in their country, and just showing a bunch of Americans sitting there. I mean, are they saying like they said, are they saying Americans won't do those jobs? I don't even have any guesses to contemplate. I just don't know what they're trying to say. Anyway, we want to hear from you. What do you all think about this stupid video that the Chinese put out attempting to burn Donald Trump, that apparently progressives love right now because they hate this country so much? Also, please, for the love of God, try to help me interpret this thing. And then finally, I'd love to hear everyone's opinions on Trump's tariff strategy. And because things are moving so quickly, your opinion could change from day to day. So as it stands right now, what do you guys think about Donald Trump's tariffs, his intentions with the tariffs, and how it's going thus far? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you guys watching, and we will see you in the next one.